It is at this point of time you started following your Dhamma, and with the a notion of following your Dhamma, which is more a ethical code of conduct, Ashoka even started sending Buddhist missionaries out of India, and in this way Buddhism became the most dominant religion in 3rd to 2nd century BC. So as you can see on the board, I am starting with the rock cut architecture, and especially for Buddhism, though this slide is on Buddhism, but do not consider chaityas and viharas as just things which are to be constructed by Buddhism and its followers. Because we have evidences in the near history which are showing that not only chaityas and viharas are being constructed for Buddhist people, but even the Jain monks are also doing the same. Chaityas, as I told you, the places of Chintan, and when it considered as the places of Chintan, it means those places where you can sit and meditate. So I can write the places of meditation is what chaityas were comprised of. But when you think about viharas, viharas are the places where these monks they could live. I would see, and I would say these were the one room set where they could live peacefully. So Buddhism became the dominant religion in the 3rd to 2nd century BC, and you are very well aware of that why Buddhism is becoming the dominant religion only in this time frame, because when I was discussing about Buddhism, I told you that it was around in the 325 or 321, 322 BC when Chandragupta Maurya is becoming the king of Mauryan dynasty, and the importance of Magad is actually becoming so much that in near future this Magad under Mauryas, they are going to rule over each nook and corner of India, leaving some places to the south and to the east of India. Almost every part of the Indian subcontinent used to be under the control of Mauryas, and when I was discussing that, I told you also that according to some historians like Romila Thapar, she said that Ashoka started following Dhamma when Maurya Empire was already on its height. What does it mean? Means Mauryan Empire is already on its height. It is at this point of time when Ashoka left the policy of war and Ashoka adopted the policy of Dhamma and said that one should always believe in the policies of Dhamma, one should always seek the benefits of following the policy of Dhamma, because with the policy of Dhamma you can always restrict, with the policy of Dhamma you can always restrict the warfare, and by restricting the warfare you can control your economic I would say expenditure. And if you are controlling your economic expenditure, that expenditure which will be incurred on conducting the warfares can be spent on conducting some welfare works for the people. This is what Ashoka was thinking. But Romila Thapar said that we cannot see Ashoka following Dhamma policy in isolation. I told you that some historians are of the view that Mauryan people, means Mauryan rulers, were already enjoying so much big empire that there is no need of conquering more. It is at this point of time you started following your Dhamma, and with the a notion of following your Dhamma, which is more a ethical code of conduct, Ashoka even started sending Buddhist missionaries out of India, and in this way Buddhism became the most dominant religion in 3rd to 2nd century BC. But one thing which is to be noted down here is that with the fall of Mauryans, because according to various historians, I even told you that the decline of Mauryans can be seen as a Brahmanical reaction. Brahmanical reaction in what sense? Because Ashoka is very categorically saying that one should not believe in the meaningless rituals and sacrifices. One should believe in the policy of Dhamma. One should believe in the policy of respecting the lives of animals. And yes, one should believe in that you should walk on the path which will not take you out of reality, means one should not walk on the path of superstition. This is what Ashoka said. But what Brahmins were doing before Mauryans, if you realize that, you will come to know that Brahmins were constructing the whole Vedic pantheon only on the basis of these superstitions, only on the, because you are very well aware of it, that it is growing use of rituals and sacrifices that people are facing, that these are so much expensive to be conducted, means I am talking about the sacrifices, and for their conduction you will have to call a Brahman who is an expert in doing so. And when you call a Brahman, it is not an easy affair, it is a costly affair, and that is why, and even people are very much worried, people are very much, I would say, disturbed, that even if how much wealth they accumulate throughout the year, throughout the ages, they can never uplift their social status as far as Brahmanism is concerned. And this is the reason why heterodox sects like Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika, they are actually coming at this point of time, and they are not only coming, but they are also gaining the patronage. For example, the patronage provided by Ashoka to Buddhism. That is why this line has been written. Why I talked so much on that? Because it is to be understood in this background. There were three characteristic forms of Buddhist architecture which actually develops around this period. One we have already discussed, which is related to stupa. The second is called hall of worship, which I will be discussing today. Hall of worship means chaityas where you can sit and chintan. And the third one is vihara, means more kind of monasteries. Vihara can be understood as a sangh. Sangh are the places where the Buddhist monks, they used to reside and they used to sit together and eat. So those places are called viharas, though vihara looks like more of a Buddhist term. But we already know that monasteries were not being only constructed by Buddhism, but also by Jainism. This is the reason why I use viharas and chaityas both for religion, for both the religions, that is Buddhism and Jainism. So since the Buddhist and Jain monks, they usually stayed away from the cities and towns, therefore chaityas and viharas, they were developed along the hillsides, because it is being believed by Buddha himself that work of meditation, not only the work of meditation, but yes, the work of realizing your inner self, which is called introspection, can only be done when you are isolated. And if you are living in cities and towns, this kind of isolation can never be possible. Because for isolation you need a place, you need a peaceful place, that place which will not only allow you to judge your acts, but that place will also allow you to think upon that what could be done in order to save yourself from these types of sins, from these types of worldly affairs. Because if you want to become a Buddhist monk, monk means what? That person who is free from all the worldly desires. This is what Buddha said, Ashtanga Marg. What was it? That if you want to save yourself from these worldly pains, you will have to walk on the path of Ashtanga Marg. Means the salvation can only be achieved if you are free from all these worldly desires. But for attaining that stage, such path should be chosen, which is not inclined towards so much of penance, but which is also not inclined towards so much of pleasurable life. This is what Buddha said, that one should always walk on the middle path. And that is why Buddhism achieved patronage which no other heterodox sect could ever achieve. And that is why Buddhism is still living, not in India, but yes, outside India you will see many countries are still following Buddhism, because principles of Buddha are so much relevant even now, can be related to the realities of your life even now, that no other religion, according to various historians, whatever Buddha said can be directly related to every form of life. Every form of life means even if you are a student, even if you are a wage earner, even if you are living at your old stage, things which Buddha said can be related with every life form. This is what historians are saying. So as far as chaityas are concerned, Chaityas were the places of worship for Buddhist and Jain monks. It had a rectangular prayer hall with a stupa which is placed at the center of the hall. An entire Chaitya used to have three divisions: the central Chaitya and the two other Chaityas. Central Chaitya was separated from the two other Chaityas by the row of pillars. Internal walls of Chaityas were actually polished, and ending of the Chaitya was apsidal in nature or in shape. This is what Chaitya used to look like. But as far as viharas are concerned, viharas are actually the monasteries which were excavated nearby the Chaityas for the residence of the monks for Buddhist and Jain followers. These viharas were constructed in order to save these monks from the forces of nature, means all that rainy season and all the harsh forms of nature, so that they could not affect the lives of these monks. The sculptures here, means at viharas, they depict various scenes from the life of Buddha, and when it is written the life of Buddha, we should remember one thing: the compilation of more than 500 stories related with the life of Buddha, which is called Jataka stories. So sculptures here, the theme of that sculptures used to be Jatakas, and you are very well aware of these Jatakas because I explained the sculpture to you when I was talking about Amravati, when I was talking about Mathura and Gandhar School of Art and Architecture. So an important point to be noted here is that viharas, unlike Chaityas, they did not have stupa in between. What does stupa means? Stupa is the place which will house the relics of Buddha. And if you are placing the relics of Buddha before you when you are worshipping Buddha, what does it mean? If you are worshipping Buddha in front of the stupa, stupa is what? Stupa is the place which is the symbol of Mahaparinirvana. Mahaparinirvana is that stage when Buddha attains, or when Buddha attained divinity, when he died, and that is where stupas were being constructed. So if you are worshipping stupa in front of you, what does it mean? It means you are trying to connect yourself directly with the divinity. This is what they are actually thinking of when they were constructing stupas in the middle of that rectangular hall. This is what the structure of stupa used to look like: a rectangular hall having a stupa in between. This is the central Chaitya, and the two other Chaityas used to be in both the directions. But later on, what we see that a single rectangular hall adjoined by two other halls like this. This is what the stupa in between, and here you are having the pillars. This type of structure was also experienced when the Chaityas were being constructed. So this is the central Chaityas and two other Chaityas, and those Chaityas were divided by each other, means these two other Chaityas were divided from the central Chaitya with the help of pillars. This is what Chaityas and viharas architecture used to look like.